everyone, my name is Megan, and this is my video presentation for Political Science 205. So the country I chose was France, and the modules I chose to focus on were Module 1, Comparative Parties and Ideologies, Module 2, which was Regimes, and Module 5, which was Parties, Elections, and the Electorates. I know we were only supposed to pick 2 modules, but I started working on the project and I found that I was utilizing both Modules 1 and 5 along with 2, so I just decided to use all 3 of them. So let's begin with the political parties in France. There are several political parties in France, but there are 5 more known parties that I want to discuss. Those 5 are La République En Marche. You might see it as LREM or La REM, and it is Emmanuel Macron's self-made party. The next one is La Rassemblement National, or you might see it as RN, and it is the frontrunner among the far-right parties. The next one is La Républicaine. You might see it as LR and is the main French Republican Party. The next one is Le Parti Socialiste. You might see it as PS and is the main party from the left. And the final one is La France Insoumise. You might see it as LFI and it is the troublemaker from the radical left. So let's go more into depth of each of these political parties so you get to know more about them. So the first one is La République En Marche. It is the current president Emmanuel Macron's self-made party, like I mentioned earlier. It was founded by Macron in 2016 ahead of the 2017 presidential election, but he resigned as the party's leader after he won the presidential election in 2017, as it is a customary thing to do. The party is among one of the youngest political parties in France, and it is a self-proclaimed center-left party. The name translates to the Republic on the Move, in case you were wondering. The next party is Le Rassemblement National. This party is the most famous extreme right party in France. It was established in 1972, so it is one of the older parties, originally under the name of Front National. It was created by Jean-Marie Le Pen. The name change occurred in 2018 to what it is now after Marine Le Pen, daughter to Jean-Marie, lost the presidential election to Macron, and the name translates to National Rally in English. The next party is Le Républicain. It is the main Republican party in France. It's also one of the largest parties as well. Le Républicain was created out of another party named l'Union pour un mouvement populaire in 2015 by Nicolas Sarkozy. I'm probably saying that wrong and I apologize. But the name translates to the Republicans in English. The next party is La Parti Socialiste. It is the main political party from the left. It was formed in 1969, so this is another one of the older parties, and it is very similar to the old Labour Party in the United Kingdom. The party identifies as a conventional left party, and the name translates to the Socialist Party in English. The last political party is La France Insoumise. This party is known to be rebellious, and it has shaken up a lot of French politics since it's been created in 2016 by Jean-Luc Mélenchon. La France Insoumise is an extreme left party, and the name translates to the rebellious France in English. Like I stated previously, there are a lot of different political parties in France, so I just wanted to highlight some of the other parties and lesser known ones. So the first one is Mouvement Démocrate, which is the democratic movement in English. The next one is Union des Démocrates et Indépendants, which is the Union of Democrats and Independents. The next one is Parti Communiste Français, which is the French Communist Party. The next one is Parti de Gauche, which is the Left Party. And the last one is Europe Écologie Les Verts, which is Europe Ecology or the Greens. So this is a graph that shows some of the parties and where they lie. We can see Le Rassemblement National, La République En Marche, and Les Républicains on the right and how they vary based on authoritarian and economic views. We can also see Le Parti Socialiste and La France Insoumise on the left and how they vary based on authoritarian and economic. I just thought that this graph would be a little bit helpful to see where the parties lie more easily. So this year, France held their presidential election. They do theirs every 5 years. Their election process has 2 rounds. So their first round is essentially every political party with a running candidate. The first round took place on April 10th of this year. There were 12 total candidates from 12 different parties. The results determine which 2 candidates move on to round 2. Round 2 took place on April 24th of this year with two winners from round 1. They were the current president of France, Emmanuel Macron, who was running for re-election under La République En Marche, and Marine Le Pen, who was running under La Rassemblement National. After round 2, the presidential election concluded. Macron won and was re-elected. Macron amassed 58.5% of the votes, whereas Le Pen obtained 41.5% of the votes, losing to Macron by 17% of the votes. So on the left is a graph of all the candidates running during round 1. You can see all their names and then all of the percentages of votes that they obtained. And then on the right is a map of round 2, which was between Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen. The yellow is for Macron and the blue is for Le Pen. You can also see on the far right side is different countries that are also under France, and you can see who they voted for as well. I just thought this was a great representation to show the election. So after learning about the political parties and ideologies along with the elections, you might be wondering if France is a democracy or authoritarian country. So France is a democracy, but it's not a full democracy. Most people assume that France is a full democracy, which is true to some extent. France does have free and fair elections, but they definitely have a more flawed democracy. The image in the background shows most of the world and what their regime is. I have circled France in a red circle so it's easier for you to find. I also boxed in the flawed democracies key so you're able to compare it with France and other countries with the map. So that should be there for you to see as well. There are a few reasons as to why France is a flawed democracy. One reason is because France has a poor showing in terms of the functioning of government and political culture. The French legislator is one of the weakest in France, especially when you compare it to other countries like Norway, who ranks #1, and Australia, who ranks #6 in the world. The French legislator is one of the weakest because the president wields huge power, which makes it difficult for the legislator to shape legislation and hold the government to account. Even though the president is elected by the people, there is a greater risk for a single decision maker taking action against civilians' wishes than a legislator composed of hundreds of elected officials. So another reason why France is a flawed democracy is because the French citizens have a low trust in the government and or their political parties. A survey showed that the French are some of the most disaffected in Europe. Only 7% of the French trust their political parties, and only 14% of the French trust the national government. Both are way below average as well. Despite France being a flawed democracy now, France actually used to be a full democracy. France was brought down to a flawed democracy because of a decline in public confidence in politicians and its low levels of political engagement. Only 30% of the people in France are somewhat to very interested in politics, but when you compare it to the United Kingdom, where 44% are interested in politics, and the United States, where 58% of people are interested in politics, there's a major difference between the countries, so that is why they are brought down to a flawed democracy. As of 2014, France's democracy index was scored at a 7.92 out of 10. That put France below 25 other countries that were scored above an 8.0 and higher, all of which are full democracies. With a score of 7.92, France ranks just slightly lower than Botswana, which is another country with a flawed democracy. As of this year, 2022, France is sitting at a 7.99 according to the World Population Review, which is slightly higher than previous years, which is good. With a 7.99, France is just below other full democratic countries. So France is just at the border between flawed and full democracy. Since France is at a 7.99, they do have the potential to become a fully democratic country again because that line is at 8.0 and they are sitting at a 7.99. So like I said, they do have the potential to become a full democratic country again. These are the websites I use to get most of my information from, so feel free to check those out. Also, thank you for watching my video and sticking around until the end of it. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed.